What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we got some parts, we got some hinges, we got some lighting, we got a good day ahead of us. What do you say, pups? Okay, they're not gonna do any of the work with me, but that's cool. Thank you guys for joining me here today, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and then hit the little bell notification so you don't miss any of our bi-weekly uploads where we do how-tos on things like the Mustang RTR S550, our Drift BMW, one of those two F-150s out there, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss what we have in store for the Mini. But those are all future uploads. What do you say we hop into today's content? I didn't film it, but I already painted my new hinges. I used one layer of this primer sealer from Rust-Oleum. I used 2 coats of this engine enamel from Duplicolor. It says it's Ford Blue. And then I followed it up with 2 coats of this 2-time extra cover clear from Rust-Oleum. It actually turned out pretty good. Here is the hinge right here. This one is which side is this? They're all marked. Right side, so we need the left side. So here it is right here. If we line it up next to the car, it actually blends fairly well. I think it goes with the car from what you can see here. Then bolting it up, you can see that it actually fits in there fairly nicely. Yeah, I think that'll work. It won't stand out too much. You won't really be able to tell it. Hopefully that stays on there. If we take this other new one and where do I have my old ones at? Ah, here they are right here. So here's one of my old ones. Difference is this here is slightly, just barely ever so slightly longer. You can't really see it from that angle very well. But the other thing too is if we line these up, you can see that's smaller, and that actually made a world of difference. I spent a while looking for the bolts to attach this and ended up just grabbing some randos. And then like 3 days later, I found all the bolts I needed for the hinge sitting in a pile over there on the shelf. So now that we got all that, it's mounted up just to make sure everything was working good. These hinges do work better than the original ones I did have on the car because those are for an 18 to 20. So now that we have that, we need to line it up. But to line it up, we need to get the fenders on there. I already got the hood on there, but we've been waiting for a headlight, which we now have. As of right now, I only have the driver's side headlight. The person who had this, I'm trying to make a deal with them to get the passenger side. They said the passenger side is in great condition. This one here, I actually think is in really good condition. It's got a little bit of normal wear and tear that I know can all be buffed out, so there's no worry. It is an authentic Ford light, as you can see the pony in the corner. The only issue with it is, if you can see, that tab right there is busted, but it still rests up in the area that it needs to, and I can fix that. Everything else is getting all this stuff lined up, so I need to get the fenders over here and then start messing around with this here so I can get this bolted into place the way that it needs to be. So I guess I'll go grab the fender and we can start working on that to make sure everything lines up. Yes, I know I said everything would be going to paint and it still has not, but that is coming up eventually. As you can see, nothing is quite lining up the way that it should. These holes are off here, and we got a really large gap back here. So what it looks like is happening is this whole hinge here actually needs to slide back. So I'm gonna pop this off and see if we can get it to slide back. Everything seems to be lining up a little bit better now. We have the holes here are lining up. Back here, the gapping improved. What I did was I loosened these, and the back hinge here, the back of the hinge, actually instead of sliding backwards, it dropped. So that moved all of this closer to where it needs to be. So I'm gonna let the hood down a little bit, see how that looks. If it's looking decent, I'm gonna go ahead then and tighten down the bolt there in that back corner so we have everything lined up where we need it to be. This wrench right here just so happened to fall out of my pocket. And this tip right here just so happened to land on my rim. Oh, you piece of shit. The headlight bolted in It bolts in here through that spot right there. Then you got the brace that comes through here that bolts up to the fender. Gapping here along the door still looks good. I feel that it's a bit more than questionable right here. Of course, we all know that this is going to be off because the brace here is different, so this needs to come in, but there's not much that it can come in with the headlight there. And then on the other side, same with the gapping over here, pretty well on point, except for back here. Another thing though that I need to work through is right now, the hood is going into the latch, but it isn't completely latching. So like I push down, it doesn't lock, and I can wiggle this thing around all day. Apparently at some point in time I hit stop record and I spoke for like another 5 minutes. Anyways, on a recent video of B is for Bill, I saw where they converted the front end of their Raptor over to a modern day Raptor, and they were saying one thing that they had to do was line up the hood perfectly first to where they want it, and then make the fenders and everything go in line with that. I didn't understand the reasoning behind that because I've always just lined the fenders up first and then made everything else work with it. But I'm now starting to see why they did that, because one thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that this hood latches, and like I'm saying, mine isn't right now. So we got everything else where it needs to be. We're going to go ahead and see what we can do about getting this hood to latch up the way that it needs to, and then see if we can go from there. I still need to develop the bracket for the passenger side and driver's side to bring the fenders in. Like I think I've said in other videos, RTR, we have made a little piece for our race cars that goes on there that you can bolt and unbolt, and it's the perfect spacing. I just don't want to reach out to them for help with this. Like I said, I'm trying to do everything on my own. Nothing is given to me. I'm sure I would pay them for it if that's what I needed, but I don't know, we'll see. I like to do things here at the house first before reaching out and seeing if I need anything else from elsewhere. So let's get to this, solve this problem first of getting the hood to latch, and then we'll go from there. We got the hood latch, and it's on there actually really good, probably better than any Mustang hood that I've ever had before, because anybody who has a Mustang, you know that these things, they shake a little bit at top speeds, but it looks like everything is good. Hopefully it lines up good with the bumper, which I'm knowing more and more that I'm going to have to test fit on here as well. But now that we got the hood to latch, and I think we got everything lined up the way that we need to, we now need to go and grab the fenders and put them on and see if we can get them to line up as well. After much mussing around here, I think I finally got the hinges where I need to be. Now, the hood isn't lined up the way that it needs to be, because if you look at the gaps here and then over there, you can see that clearly they're different. But I'm worried about is door gapping and whether or not the hood closes, because that's what the hinges will affect, and that's what I'm trying to line up. So our hood is latched now, and if we look over here, we got pretty even gap. Granted, once you get down here, it looks different, but that's because nothing's bolted in, and we can still wiggle this about and get it to where we need to be. But I do believe that I finally got the hinges on the hood locked down to where they need to be, so everything should be good. I really do need to fabricate this bracket here next so that I can get the headlights lined up. On the headlight here, I went ahead and I dropped this piece of tape so I could see where I need to bring the edge of the fender in to make it line up. And as you can see, here's the stock area on where it bolted up from the 15 to 17, and this is where it needs to be on the 18 to 20. So what I'm kind of thinking is, instead of trying to redo this whole bracket and try and be crazy, I might just make an extension, since it only needs to go out 1 or 2 inches. And I do have this. This here was a plate that was used on, I want to say like a gauge pot or something that I had for one of the vehicles. And I can probably mount this down underneath this, put one of the stock fastener clips on here, and just extend this out and bolt this straight into this piece here. So what I think I'm going to do is grab one of my seat clamps here, put this down to the edge of the table, and split this directly in half. This here shouldn't rust. It shouldn't. I believe this is aluminum, but we'll go ahead and we'll spray it down with some blue anyway. And then I'll go ahead and probably spray the edge of this the same way I did here, even though, like I say, it's not a perfect match, but most people aren't going to notice, and this hood is hardly ever going to be up. So let's go with that. Easiest fix possible. Holy shit. I did not get this on video, but I had this clamped down in the C-clamp as tight as I could get it. And I started drilling through it, and as you can see, it ended up catching. Well, what happened is it caught and slipped out of the little vice grip that I had there, or the C-clamp that I had in place, and hit me in the stomach. And it would have tore up my stomach, except before it did, my shirt was hanging, and it wrapped my shirt around it like 3 times, and then went into my stomach. So, holy crap, that was lucky. Wow, that would have sucked. Okay, well, I gotta finish that, so we're gonna put it back in the clamp and hope it works this time. Okay, the place doesn't look horrible. I think once it's painted up nicely, nobody will really pay attention to it. Just you people will know. And then I have it lined up here with the way I needed it to. And then what I did was, since this was slightly off, I bent this piece here because I'm not really sure if it may have gotten out of place with the last owner, or maybe getting tossed around the garage here, but it didn't make the light gap up the way it needs to. So now we got a fairly consistent gap here. Again, this isn't in place quite where it needs to be right there, but everywhere else it lines up pretty good. So that should just be about it. The only thing we need to do now is shut the hood and see if it works. All right, I think we just about got it, or at least as close as we're gonna get it for now, until we get everything back. I will be officially, no joke, taking this piece here to get painted tomorrow. And then where is all this blue coming? Oh, from when I painted the brackets. Okay, that would be it. Anyways, I'm going to take that fender there to get painted this week. That way I can get back on the car, get everything bolted down exactly where it needs to be, get the side skirt in place, and then make sure that this headlight is lined up the way it needs to be, and be done with this side. I'm not going to do the other side. I know that I said I was gonna do it then, but there's a reason why I'm not. The reason why I'm not gonna do it is because I realized how much trouble I had getting this light lined up with this fender and this hood. So I figure the only way I'm really gonna be able to do it is if I get the passenger side light to do it, so I can line everything up the way it needs to be. Could I do the hood now? Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably could, but I don't know if I want to, because I know I'm gonna be taking off the hood to line up everything else, which I really didn't think I was going to. I thought I wouldn't have to worry about it. I'd get the headlights in, get everything set up the way I needed it to, with everything up top done. But now just seeing how much went into it and how often these fenders were scraping the hood, I think I'm just gonna hold off on that, pop it back over onto the BMW, and be done with it that way. But I believe that is it for this video. I know everybody was probably expecting, since last week I went over some of the stuff that had been done with the BMW, that this week I'd be working on the BMW, but I changed my mind since I got the headlight in. So next week, maybe the BMW, or it'll just be more of getting this lined up with the painted fender, or maybe just a cameo. I don't know. Tune in to find out. If you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so that you don't miss anything that we're doing here. If you've been here before, hit the like button, because you know what? You're coming back for a reason, and it's most likely because you like what I'm doing. And if not, well, then you're just a glutton for punishment, and you need to like it anyway, because it's just the job I'm doing and getting you to do it. Until next time, everybody, peace.